As Mintling and Aisling prepared to face each other, Rippling's anger towards Aisling simmered beneath the surface. She couldn't tolerate his condescending attitude and the way he belittled Mintling. She believed in her friend's abilities and knew he had what it took to outshine Aisling. Mintling, with his focused and determined expression, stood tall and composed. He didn't let Aisling's sneers affect him. Rippling admired his resilience and quietly hoped that Mintling would teach Aisling a lesson in humility. On the other side, Aisling exuded arrogance and confidence, underestimating Mintling. His behavior only fueled Rippling's determination to see Mintling succeed. She glanced at Lionling, who offered her support and reassurance. It bolstered her confidence and resolve to stand up against Aisling's disrespect. As the signal was given, Mintling sprang into action with a lightning-fast move. His strikes were precise and calculated, showcasing his agility and strategic thinking. Aisling, caught off guard by Mintling's swift attack, stumbled backward, his cocky demeanor wavering for a moment. Rippling felt a surge of excitement as Mintling continued to press his advantage. He displayed finesse in his movements, seamlessly evading Aisling's retaliatory strikes. The crowd watched in anticipation, realizing that Mintling was not to be underestimated. With every move, Mintling demonstrated his skill and determination, gradually wearing down Aisling's defenses. His strikes were well-timed and accurate, showcasing his understanding of combat techniques. Rippling couldn't help but cheer silently for Mintling, her faith in him unwavering. Aisling, growing frustrated and realizing he had underestimated his opponent, unleashed a fierce counterattack, but Mintling was prepared. Dodging and parrying each blow with remarkable precision, he utilized his agility to stay one step ahead of Aisling, never allowing him to gain the upper hand. The mock battle between Mintling and Aisling was a display of skill and resilience. Mintling's determination and refusal to back down impressed not only Rippling, but also the rest of the crowd. They watched in awe as Mintling continued to dominate the match. In a final, decisive move, Mintling executed a flawless strike, catching Aisling off guard and landing a clean hit. The crowd erupted into cheers, acknowledging Mintling's victory in the match. Aisling, humbled and defeated, slinked back to his group, his arrogance shattered. Rippling stood in awe as Mintling made his way back to the group. Lionling nudged her with a laugh. "Told you he'd do just fine." As the dust settled, Streamflow stepped forward, a smile playing on his lips. "Congratulations to Rippling's group for winning the mock battles. Your skills and teamwork have proven exemplary. You will move on to the finals." As the fledglings celebrated their success, Rippling couldn't help but feel a swell of gratitude towards her new friends and mentors. Their unwavering support and belief in each other had carried them through the challenges, and she was eager to continue this journey with them. Now, all that lay ahead of them was the splitting of the group in the finals and the competition between the four pairs from the different lines. As they celebrated and discussed what the final round would entail, the guardians sent out by the leaders during the hunting competition came racing back into the meadow, Windheart in the lead with a steely gaze. Windheart's arrival caught the attention of Rippling and the rest of the group. His determined expression and urgent demeanor indicated that something important had transpired during the investigation. As Windheart approached, his gaze met with Rose Dust's, silently conveying the gravity of the situation. Without wasting a moment, Rose Dust motioned for the other leaders and the lieutenants to follow as Bright Moon led the returning patrol off to the far ledge in the meadow. Ivy Nose nudged Rippling to follow as she had been the one to bring the information back during the hunt, and it was announced there would be a momentary break before the final round. After reaching the area below the ledge, Rippling settled in beside Ivy Nose and gazed at Windheart and his patrol. His gaze met hers, and he gave a small smile before he began to report on their findings to the four leaders. "We followed the trail of sick prey deeper into the forest, closer to the Eagle Line border," Windheart started, his voice laced with concern. "We discovered multiple carcasses of animals with signs of illness. It seems to be spreading, and the numbers are increasing." Rippling's heart sank at the news, her mind racing with thoughts of a past conversation with Eclipse. A conversation about her dreams that were dark and ominous, of cats screaming out for help or in pain, a strong smell of illness and decay, and a burning forest with a looming shadow among the flames. Windheart continued, "We also found traces of a foreign scent near some of the prey. It doesn't match any known scent markers in our territory. It's unfamiliar and raises suspicions that there may be an external force involved. The leaders and lieutenants listened attentively, their expressions grave and contemplative. The potential threat to their territory and the well-being of their lines weighed heavily on their minds. Rosedust spoke up, her voice steady but filled with concern. We cannot ignore this. We must act swiftly and decisively to protect our territories and investigate the source of this illness. Windheart, you and the team you went with to trace the prey, continue the investigation. We need to determine the cause and find a solution. Brightmoon nodded her head as well and interjected, but we need to do so in a way without sending the rest of the cats into a panic. This needs to be discreet and kept between few until we know exactly how bad this sickness is, or if anything else is going to show up with it as well. We also don't want to trigger whoever owns the unknown scent. Windheart nodded, understanding the urgency of the situation. We will prioritize the safety of our line mates and gather as much information as possible, while being as careful with our movements as we can. Streamflow nodded and looked at the other leaders. We're going to have to cancel the final event and end the competition early. The last event was to be a scavenger hunt for certain types of prey, herbs, and more, but if someone is out there tampering with things in the forest, it's not safe to let them gather the items and the chance it could bring harm. Willowwing nodded her head in agreement. It's a shame, but you make a good point. As the leaders and lieutenants discussed their plan of action and the need of discretion, Rippling listened intently, her mind filled with a mixture of concern and determination. She understood the importance of keeping the situation under wraps to avoid panic and to gather as much information as possible. The cancellation of the final event of the competition made sense, considering the potential dangers lurking in the forest. The safety of their line mates and the well-being of the lions took precedence over any competition. Brightmoon took upon herself the task of announcing the cancellation of the final competition due to unprecedented causes. As she announced to the surrounding cats of their decision, Rippling could see the disappointment in her teammates' eyes. They had made it all the way to the finals, only for them to not be able to compete against each other. She herself could feel the swelling of disappointment, even though she understood the reason why it had to be canceled. Brightmoon's voice carried a tone of reassurance as she continued. While the competition has been cut short, we can look forward to the next competition in a half moon. Things have been doing better in the lines, so we won't be going as long without one. That is guaranteed. Currently, though, for the safety of the fledglings participating, we don't want the chance anything unexpected happening during the final event. I appreciate you all for understanding. With that, I think it is best we all head back to our respective territories for now. As Brightmoon addressed the disappointed cats, her words carried a sense of understanding and empathy. She acknowledged their hard work and dedication that had brought them all the way to the finals. While the cancellation of the competition was disappointing, Brightmoon offered a glimmer of hope by mentioning the upcoming competition in a half moon. Rippling listened intently, finding solace in the fact there would be another opportunity to showcase their skills and compete. She understood that the safety of the fledglings was paramount, and it was necessary to avoid any unexpected risks during the final event. The disappointment in the air was palpable, but Brightmoon's reassurance and gratitude for their understanding helped alleviate some of the disappointment. Rippling looked around at her fellow fledglings and saw a mix of emotions, disappointment, but also a renewed sense of determination. As the announcement came to an end, the fledglings started to disperse, their spirits slightly dampened but still filled with anticipation for the future. As Rippling and Flameling bid goodbye to their teammates, they followed the rest of the Wolfline cats back to camp. Back in the Wolfline camp, Rippling couldn't shake off the lingering disappointment. The canceled competition had been an opportunity for her and her teammates to prove themselves and showcase their skills, but she understood the safety of their line mates came first, and the decision to cancel the event was for the greater good. Rippling and Flameling made their way to their den, where they settled in, their thoughts still consumed by the events of the day. The disappointment weighed heavily on them, but they refused to let it dampen their spirits entirely. They were determined to use this setback as an opportunity for growth and continued training. As they curled up together, they began discussing their plans for the coming days. While they talked, Featherling joined them in the den, carrying 3 mice with her. After giving a mouse to each of them, Featherling settled in herself with the 3rd mouse. It's a shame that the final event had to be canceled. I was so sure you two would win it for the Wolfline in the end. Flameling puffed out her chest and responded to Featherling. We absolutely would have. Ripple, do you know why they had to cancel it, though? You went with Ivy Nose and the others to listen to Windheart's report. Rippling took a bite from the mouse Featherling gave her before answering. I had smelled something off during the hunt, so Windheart and the others were sent out to look into it. From what Windheart said, he found an unfamiliar scent, so the leaders didn't want to chance us running into the owner of it. Telling a half-truth to the two, she watched as her eyes went wide before they looked at each other. That makes sense. We've had wanderers come through before, and some can be pretty hostile. Featherling nodded. Letting the Guardians scout for them is better than the fledglings accidentally running into them and getting hurt if they're aggressive. As Flameling and Featherling continued to discuss the potential owner of the unknown scent, Rippling's mind started to wander. Thinking back to her time with her family and her first time meeting Eclipse in her dreams, she had been running through an ever-burning forest. Cats screaming around her, yelling for help, calling out in pain, and just running for their lives. Deep in the flames, a shadow danced, as if watching over all the chaos with the intent to see it to the end. There was a strong smell of illness on some of the cats calling out for help. They were sprawled on the ground with little to no energy, and struggling in an attempt to get to their paws. A flaming tree came crashing down on one of the fallen cats before a brief silence was heard. The shadow seemed to grow larger, and felt as if it had a long-standing grudge on the forest and its residents. As she tried her best to recall the dream and the details within it, Rippling heard a whisper in her mind. Stop, my child. We will talk about it in your sleep tonight. Startled from her thoughts, Rippling listened to the voice resounding in her mind and recognized it instantly as Eclipse's voice. Yes, it is me. It seems things are moving much quicker than we had thought. Tonight, I will visit your dreams, and we will talk about the trials to come. Nodding her head to herself, Rippling spent the rest of the daylight hours with Flameling and Featherling. As the moon rose into the sky, Rippling settled into the fledgling den, laying between Flameling and Featherling after a long day, and closed her eyes, preparing to meet Eclipse. Rippling closed her eyes, her mind filled with anticipation as she awaited Eclipse's arrival in her dreams. She felt a sense of comfort knowing that she would receive guidance and insight from the wise and enigmatic wolf. As sleep overtook her, Rippling found herself standing in the midst of the burning forest once again. The air was thick with smoke, and the distant cries of cats echoed around her. She knew she was in the realm of her dreams, where Eclipse would appear. A shimmering, starry figure emerged from the flames, its form gradually taking shape until Eclipse stood before her, her eyes gleaming with wisdom. Her voice echoed in Rippling's mind, conveying a mixture of concern and determination. Hello, my sweet child. Eclipse dipped her head and touched her nose to Rippling's. You seem to be faring well in the wolf line for the most part, aside from some things out of our control. Rippling licked Eclipse's starry nose in turn and nodded. Things in the forest are great. I've met a lot of new cats and made some friends. But someone is tampering with the prey in the forest, and it has been giving me flashbacks to the first time we met. In this dream. Motioning around them with her tail, Rippling met Eclipse's eyes. You said things are moving much faster than you thought. What do you mean exactly? Eclipse's eyes held a mixture of concern and determination as she gazed at Rippling. She spoke in a calm yet resolute voice, her words carrying a weight of importance. My dear Rippling, the trials that lie ahead are connected to the disturbances in the forest and the tampering with the prey. The illness and the unfamiliar scent you encountered during the hunt are not mere coincidences. There is a force at work, a malevolent presence seeking to disrupt the balance of our territories. Rippling listened intently, her curiosity and determination growing with each word Eclipse spoke. She wanted to understand the significance of her dreams and the visions that haunted her. Back during the time I walked these territories, back when the other ancient ones roamed this land, when the original lines were beginning to form, there were cats that were not happy with the peaceful way things were developing. Many wanted to use their abilities to take over the whole forest, for their line and their line alone, allowing no other cats to so much as see into the forest. Our descendants challenged them to a fight. The losers would leave the forest, while the winners would decide on how things would develop within. Seeing that Rippling was listening intently, Eclipse continued. Our descendants came out victorious, but not without injury. Still, the forest was developed in the way it still sits now, with the lions residing within and coexisting peacefully with one another. Now the descendants of the ones who had lost have learned of the forest and are making their presence known with the intent to remove the lions and claim what they believe to be their ancestors' rightful territory, and thus their rightful territory. They are starting with infecting the prey and will continue from there. They will do anything and everything they can to chase out the inhabitants of this forest or kill them in the process. Rippling's eyes widened in shock and realization as Eclipse revealed the history behind the malevolent presence that threatened their territories. The conflict between the descendants of the Ancient Ones and the current lions painted a grim picture of the trials they would face. So, this malevolent force seeks to overthrow the current lions and claim the forest for themselves, Rippling said, her voice filled with a mixture of concern and worry. And they are starting with infecting the prey to weaken our lines. We cannot let them succeed. Eclipse nodded, her starry form shimmering in the dream realm. You understand the gravity of the situation, Rippling. The trials ahead will test your strength, your loyalty, and your ability to unravel the mysteries that surround you. But remember, you are not alone in your journey. Your line mates, your friends, and the wisdom I provide will guide you through the darkness. Rippling felt a surge of determination and a renewed sense of purpose. She knew that she had to protect her new home and the friends she had made within it. As she thought so, the dream began to fade around her, and Eclipse narrowed her eyes as she gazed at the young she-cat. The dream is fading. It is time for our meeting to end. Tell Bright Moon of our meeting tonight, and let her know that time is scarce. Nodding her head, Rippling closed her eyes, only to open them again inside the dimly lit fledgling den, with traces of sunlight peeking through the leaves. Rising to her paws as to not awaken Flameling and Featherling, Rippling made her way to Bright Moon's den, with the new information she had received.